The iron grid, the welded stair, the frame that holds you in the air. To build your home inside the frame is how the builder loses name. Alchemists understood the law of the vessel. To distill the purest truth, you must construct a heavy, rigid, impenetrable glass retort. The vessel is absolutely essential for the work, but the vessel is not the stone. The novice falls in love with the intricate glasswork he created to hold the fire and the stone. The master knows that to finally hold the stone in his hand, the glass must be shattered. If you refuse to tear down the framework, you will never see the building. Welcome to the Simple Tapes. This is your friend Vinny. It is late autumn here in the Rust Belt. I drove past an old 4-story brick textile mill downtown that is being restored. For the last 6 months, the entire face of the building has been completely hidden behind 30 tons of heavy steel scaffolding. But today, a crew is out there with impact drills, unbolting the steel pipes and throwing them into the back of a flatbed truck. The masonry is cured. The brick is solid. The building is holding its own weight again, which means the heavy steel cage, the scaffolding, has to come down. Today, we are looking at the scaffolding itself. We are looking at the terrifying process of dismantling your own survival mechanics, aka your own internal scaffolding, and why the ultimate trap of self-improvement is moving into the framework and deciding to live there. In masonry and heavy construction, you cannot repair a crumbling smokestack from the ground. You have to build what engineers call false work, a massive temporary structure of steel scaffolding. The scaffolding is necessary. It holds the workers, it provides safety, and it allows the raw materials to reach the damaged areas. But it is entirely temporary. It is ugly, it is restrictive, and it blocks the light. Once the fresh mortar dries and the structural integrity of the brick is restored, the false work becomes obsolete. You do not leave the scaffolding up permanently to protect the building, you dismantle it. If you've been following along the past tapes of this whole podcast, you have been erecting false work. You built strict boundaries, rigid morning routine, and a heavy armor of discipline. You adopted the identity of the sovereign human, or the recovering overachiever. You needed that scaffolding. It saved your foundation. It gave you the leverage to repair the damage. But now, the mortar is dry, the engine is running, and the final ultimate trap is that you have become so comfortable climbing the steel pipes of your own self-improvement scaffolding that you forgot you were supposed to be repairing a life. You are identifying as the scaffolding instead of the building itself. There is a famous architectural phenomenon in big cities where scaffolding goes up for a routine facade repair and then it just stays there. For 5, 10, sometimes 15 years, a massive tunnel of steel pipes and wooden planks cover the sidewalk. The construction company finishes the repair, but the building owners realize it is actually cheaper to just pay the rental fee for the scaffolding than it is to pay the crew to tear it all down. A whole generation of people walking through that neighborhood forgets what that actual building looks like. They just remember the heavy, dark tunnel of steel that they walk under. It becomes their new permanent reality. The temporary protection becomes a permanent cage. The building survives, but it is entirely hidden from the sun. I built this podcast and the entire identity of the college and structure because I needed the scaffolding. I needed the rigid mechanical metaphors and the strict discipline to pull myself out of the mud. I needed to build a character who was in control. Eventually, I realized I was living in the false work. The false work was definitely useful and served its purpose for me at the beginning of my journey. I was so obsessed with being the guy who does that work and maintains the routine that I actually wasn't living the life that I had saved. I was stuck in that false work. The framework of betterment was blocking the light. To reach true sovereignty, you have to execute a brutal, unglamorous realization. The podcasts, the rules, the philosophies, none of it is actually you. It is just the steel pipe, the false work you used to reach the roof. If you want to be free, you have to be willing to kick the ladder away. Destroy all the scaffolding. A man or a woman who defines himself or herself by how well he or she fixes things will secretly hope he or she never runs out of things to break. So here is my challenge to you this week. Dismantle the false work. Identify one strict routine, mental model, or self-improvement rule that you adopted during a crisis to help you survive. It did its job, but now you just maintain it out of fear. This week, take it all down. Skip the rigid morning routine. Drop the heavy armor for a day. Stop defining yourself by your discipline. Trust that your foundation is finally strong enough to hold its own weight without the steel cage holding you up. The framework is not the foundation. Trust the brick. And hey, one small thing before you go. I drove past that textile mill again a few days later. The flatbed truck was gone, and the sidewalk was completely clear. For the first time in months, the sun was hitting the old red brick. The building didn't look perfect. You could see where the new mortar met the old, and there were still chips in the stone. But it was finally standing on its own, completely exposed to the air. It looked incredibly quiet, and it looked free. If you spend your whole life hiding behind the armor of your own betterment, no one will ever see the finished product of the work you actually did. Till next week, for the final time, this is your friend Vinny. Keep it ordinary, keep it simple.